Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded and is also being broadcast live on the Town of Penfield's website, www.penfield.org, on the Town of Penfield's Government Access Channel 1303, and on streaming media devices Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You can search Penfield TV in your device's app store, and please know it is free. Excuse me. If you would like to address the board on any public hearing matter tonight, there will be specific public participation opportunities for each matter after the board responds to the applicant's presentation with its own concerns and questions. Anyone that is viewing the public hearing from a remote location and wishes to address the board can participate from home or wherever by phoning 340-8771 or by electronic submission also at penfield.org. And this, you'll see me looking at this computer occasionally, and that's where we have the phone-ins and the electronic submissions. As I said, tonight's meeting is going to start with our agenda items. The first is going to be our informational meeting. We'll take care of routine items, the minutes perhaps from the last meeting. We will attend to any tabled matters that we have, and then we will discuss tonight's applications, but only in the sense of trying to get any clarification we need before the applicants come up. After that, I don't think we'll need a break, so we'll go right into the public hearings. We'll ask the applicant and any representatives to come up to these tables, give us name and address, and then the board member that's assigned as lead on these applications will walk the applicant through the application. Every applicant has submitted a very detailed written application, which we've all had for a while and reviewed. They're all very thorough and good. So we think we have a general, more than a general understanding of each application. But again, we'll have some questions for you and help you walk it through. Then we'll, every once in a while, check for phone-in comments or electronic comments, and we'll ask anybody in the audience that cares to come up and speak about an application to do the same thing. Come up and give us name and address, and then speak to the board about the application. We always like to point out every month that we think the town does a really good job of alerting its citizens and other members of the public what's on the zoning agenda. And the town does this by sending little postcards to folks who live within a certain number of feet of the subject property. The town posts the agenda on its website. And also the town makes applicants put up signs. We've all seen them. I think they're almost the size of for sale signs, maybe a little bit larger, that say, hey, this property's under review. If you have any questions, call this number. And the town does that so people know that they can come in and speak about an application or send in an email or make a call. But the bottom line is we think it does help. We welcome everybody's opinions. Tonight's agenda is fairly long, but that's okay. We don't want to shortchange anybody. Somebody has something to say, we want to hear it. But as I said, we have some very good written, thorough applications, and I think we'll be able to move along. And with that said, I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so let's get out of that, shoot into the agenda. I know one of you were waiting for me to screw up, and so far I haven't done it.
No, you're doing well.
Plenty of time, though, don't you worry. So approval of the April meeting minutes. We've all had a chance. May I have a motion on those?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes by Andres and a second by Matt. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so let's go to the tabled application. The first one on tabled, we're going to, we're going to have a public hearing on that, right? So are we going to do that now, or do we want to wait until the hearings start?
Why don't you do that at the end? Do it as reopen the public hearing?
Okay, we will do that. So the second tabled matter is going to be, continue to be tabled by agreement with the applicant. That is application 22Z0019, the cell tower. So I'll make a motion to table that per agreement with the applicant.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The third tabled matter is sort of a tandem with a new item on the agenda, so I think we're going to address both of those simultaneously. All right, great. So going to tonight's agenda, just for purposes of clarification, well, actually, the first matter is also tabled, right, by agreement with the applicant?
They're actually going to pull the application because we didn't realize until too late that they needed an additional variance. So
Okay.
we're going to combine the two variances, and they're going to be on the agenda next month.
You're not going to charge them another $75, are you?
No.
Okay,
You already did?
very good.
Look at this, moving along, all right.
Yeah. So the second application, are there any, this is one we've had before, at least, I'd say 2 or 3 times. Pretty clear, but anybody have any questions on it for clarification?
Do we have, we might, the prior conditions and everything that we gave in the prior years?
It was included.
It was, okay. Yep.
All right. Any other questions on that? The third one is the patio. Any questions for clarification there?
No.
All right, fourth is the tree-damaged front porch replacement. Any questions there? All right. The fifth, I think, is Taco Bell. Is that right?
That's
Okay.
the one you're combining with the tabled matter, right?
Yes. And any questions? No?
No.
6 is RIT down in the Quarry. Any questions?
No.
All right. 7 is Howard Hanna looking for signs. 8 is SWBR looking for the height variance. Any questions now for clarification on that? All right. Number 9 is the 20 Heritage Christian at 2730 Atlantic Ave. And then 10 is the public assembly venue, the party venue, I guess, whatever we want to call it. Any questions there? Seems pretty clear. Okay. All right, then I think we're ready to move right into the public hearings, Andy.
So we'll start with number 2 then. Kevin Schumacher, American Promotional Events, 4003 Helton Drive, Florence, Alabama, 35630. Requests a recommendation of approval for the issuance of an itinerant vendor license under Section 162-6-E1B and Section 162-E2 of the Code to allow the sales of sparkling devices at 1990 Brandt Point Drive. The property is currently or formerly owned by DeMarco Brandt Point LLC and is zoned general business. SBL number 093.02-1-25.11, application number 22Z-0026.
Okay, if you could give us your name and address.
My name is Amanda Gump, and the address is 35208 State Route 126, Carthage, New York, 13619.
All right, thanks. I think Laura will walk you through the application.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Thanks for coming in, and thanks for filling out the application so detailed and providing some background. So this is selling sparklers,
Correct, yes.
and this is the third year that you've done this?
I believe it's the third or the fourth.
Third or
Correct.
fourth? Okay. So if you maybe can just walk through a little bit about what you're looking to do and whereabouts in the plaza you're going to be set up?
So we are going to be setting up just outside of the Walmart. It's going to be towards the end of the parking lot on the garden center side. same place that we've had it in the previous years. We have an operator who is a teacher who has been running it since we've started there, and he'll be continuing again this year. And basically, it's just sparkling devices. We don't have any aerial devices or anything that explodes as part of New York's ordinances. So safe family, fireworks.
Now, I know that you've had to get the fire marshal permit. Have you done that at this point, or is that?
I believe everything's been applied for. Our state permit has been applied for as well.
Okay. And you have extinguishers and all of that on premise?
Correct, yes. There's always 2 water cans and 1 ABC extinguisher that's always included.
Great. And then I know you've set up in the same location. Any concerns with the traffic, kind of the inflow, outflow? I know it's a pretty big parking lot, but has there been any issues with that?
We haven't had any issues in the past. The way that the operator sets it up, it's pretty good flow that comes in and out of there so that there's nobody running out directly into the parking lot, into the lanes of traffic, so.
And then I did see that you are planning on selling until 10 p.m., which gets kind of late. Is there enough lighting, or do you need additional lighting in the parking lot?
So usually it's plenty of lighting. The operator also brings along a generator, and there are lights that are strung within the tent, so that way those can be plugged in the event
Just light
that
some
it's needed.
sparklers.
I don't know if that'll go over very well.
Inside the tent? No.
No. Be good marketing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this is third or fourth time doing this. Any concerns from any of the other retail outlets that are in the area, or any of the other
None that anyone
vendors?
has expressed.
Okay. Those were my questions.
All right, I would just ask, Andy, the years we've done this, I haven't heard of any issues or complaints or anything? Nope. Okay. Wrong mouse, Dan. I don't see anybody on the phone or any electronic, not that I was expecting any electronic comments. Any other questions from the board?
I think I'll just note that, in the past years, we've had conditions for the signage and those kind of things. If we mirror what we've done in the past years, that's still okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, great, good point. Anybody in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, we will then move to its consideration. So go ahead, Laura, with the environmental first.
Okay, that's right. Make a motion that this is requested as a type 2 action pursuant to seeker.
I will second that. So we have a motion to declare it a type 2 action under seeker by Laura, and I have seconded that. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. And now the merits.
So I would move to approve the request based on, there's really no infringement on kind of public safety. You've taken the proper measures there. Of course, it would be contingent upon the permit from the fire marshal. This is the third or fourth time that you've done this, so also having kind of known that the traffic is going to be okay, that there's proper lighting, and no other concerns from the public at this time. And then mirroring, of course, I'd like to add mirroring the same contingencies in the signage that we've done last year. I would move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Laura, a second by Andres, with the same conditions as we've approved previously. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nobody opposed? Okay, good luck.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good job, Laura.
Michael Bacuzzi, 55 Hilltop Drive, Penfield, New York, 14526, requests approval for an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a covered patio with less setback than required under Section 250-5.1-F1 of the code at 55 Hilltop Drive. The property is currently or formerly owned by Michael Bacuzzi and is zoned R-1-15, SBL number 139.11-3-17. This is application number 22Z-0027.
Okay.
Michael Bacuzzi, 55 Hilltop Drive.
All right, thanks.
Good evening.
How are we doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So I read through your application, and you got kind of a unique yard, right? It's thin, it's kind of narrow, it's a corner lot. So if this was something that you wanted to do, there's not a ton of space in your yard to do it, right?
No.
And this is something that you're going to be, it looks like you're building yourself. I saw the plans and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal. I looked at a prefabricated one. I had one before, and it just fell apart after a year or two. And
Sure. I guess my main question is, why specifically are you going to put it where you're putting it? It seems as though you could move it into the yard a little bit more to request less of a variance. Is there? But that's just from looking at it. Is there a reason that you can't?
so there's a fence there. I could put it against the front of the fence, but it kind of makes, with trying to keep it 10 feet away from the neighbor's yard as well, it kind of makes it in a weird spot where the yard turns into kind of a U, where
Okay.
the patio would be in that kind of, in the middle of the yard. I moved it away from the back of the house because if you look at my neighbor's house behind me, their patio sits right off the corner where the cursor is there.
Yeah.
And I felt if I put it directly behind the house, it would kind of be on top of their patio, which is fairly close to the property line as well. So kind of,
and you're putting it into the top left, right there. The
yeah,
cursor is, right?
like 10 feet out of the corner, just to kind of distance it away from my neighbor's patio and try and keep it away from the other property line. I felt that if I put it on the front side of the fence, where the fence is, because the fence kind of goes along with the front corner of the garage,
Yep.
it still would require variance from the front setback at that point, but it also would leave this 10-foot stretch of the yard on the other side of the patio with trying to maintain that setback there, where it would kind of waste some yard space, whereas right now the corner that is on the other side of the patio has some telephone poles, some other utilities and stuff like that. That's kind of not usable space to begin with.
Okay.
So it kind of minimizes the impact on the usable yard space that I have in a small, the fenced-in area in the yard is only like 45 feet by like 30 feet. So it's kind of restricted as it is, other than the area behind the house.
Because my concern is that the variance that you're seeking is, it's pretty substantial. You're going from a 30-foot setback to a 2-foot setback. And it's pretty substantial. So is there any way to move it in to the yard a little bit to require less of a setback?
I mean, I can, if that's what you guys would like to see. I don't really, placement of it really isn't that great. I mean, the house only sits 14 feet off the rear rock.
No, I understand that. And I understand everything that you're saying. It's just I'm still sitting here looking at it, that you want it 2 feet from your property line, which is where I'm hung up a little bit. Can you move it to make it so it's a 10-foot setback instead of a 2-foot setback?
I'd have to go measure again. I mean, if I'm going to move it, I'm going to put it against the front fence in the front, which is now, I'd have to also measure the front setback because it's not going to meet a front setback requirement either.
So you would need then another variance for that?
I'd need
Is that what
another
you're
variance
saying?
for that at
Okay.
that point.
So you'd need 2 variances if you were to do that?
Because now it would be coming off it wouldn't comply with the 50 feet from the front lot line, and it's not going to comply with the 30 feet from the rear lot line. So I was hoping to get away with only adjusting one
I understand that.
variance or one setback requirement or whatever you want to call it. I did speak to the neighbors behind me before I applied for it, and they don't have any issues with it.
Okay.
I tried making it compliant for the neighbor on Hilltop, and it kind of was the best location I could come up with to put it based on where
What is your plans for using it?
just mostly to sit out there. I mean, I smoke meat a lot, something to put that under so I can go out there and not have to get rained on as I'm, doing that kind of stuff.
You're not gonna-
Did you say you smoke meat a lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad to.
I'm glad other people are laughing because I thought I heard you say something else.
I thought you did too.
It's legal now.
Whatever.
I heard smoke meat for what it's worth. So you're not going to have open flames there?
No.
Okay.
I mean, there may be people over occasionally. The plans for the pavilion, I was going to mention, sourcing some of the material in that plans right now is becoming impossible, so I may need to adjust that. I've been calling around to try and find some of the timbers involved, and
So whatever you adjust, though, it's going to look...
it's going to look exactly like that. Yeah,
Okay.
it just may be some material changes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to hold you to that specific material,
Yeah.
but as long as it looks similar.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have questions about this 2-foot setback?
Well, I was just going to ask, so I'm looking at a map that shows the property number 53, the one behind, I don't know.
Is Valley, or,
It's, no, the one on Hilltop.
yeah,
Yes, that house right there. So you want to put the structure very close to that home?
no, it'd be the property behind me, the other street there.
Yep.
That one right there.
So where specifically did you want? I'm sorry, I missed.
It's going in that corner somewhere
Right where the
there.
cursor is?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Am I just not understanding?
The variance is from the line that's going up and down, I
vertical
guess,
line.
on the screen.
So
Yeah.
that's the 2 foot.
Right.
Off of that line.
That, right there, but where's the back of it gonna go? I mean, if you're gonna go 2 foot that way, the horizontal line, it's still gonna probably come out.
It's going to be 10 or 12 feet away from the neighbor on Hilltop.
Oh, okay.
And Andy, he doesn't need that's within
That's
the
okay.
setback provision.
Yeah, 10 foot is the minimum
10
setback
foot.
from that north property line, yeah.
So even though it's 2 foot, it's really just his property line, his home is on the other side. Okay.
Yeah.
And both neighbors you've spoke with?
I have not spoke to the neighbor on Hilltop.
Which is fine. How big is the structure? Is there any way that you could make the structure smaller? That
It
would
was like
require
a-
less of a variance from that standpoint, so it wouldn't eat up so much of your yard? I mean, I don't,
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only question would be is if I don't want to put it in the middle of the backyard. I
Yeah.
feel like that's going to end up being a unique placement of it. So I'd rather, if the 2 foot setback's going to be an issue, I guess I'd rather put it along the fence on the front side of the yard, which is going to require me to go measure and determine what variance I'm going to need from the front lot line.
May I interrupt you for a minute? Just because you're a corner lot, when you say front yard,
Driveway side, right?
The
Yeah.
driveway side, yeah.
well, you see where the cursor is now, that's what you consider to be the front?
Yes.
Okay. So,
And that's what I understand
put it
is
right there.
technically the front per code and all that other stuff, because it's the,
yeah.
so the house sits the wrong way on a,
Did there used to be a pool there? Is it, there looks to be like a round,
there's a fire pit in the corner there, and then when I purchased the house, there was a large stone pad that was, I guess, going to be a driveway at some point. However, it has since been removed. There's now a white privacy fence that encloses that corner from the garage to the farther down to the next house over. There's a white privacy fence that encloses that yard.
okay.
And it goes all the way around the back of the lot and comes back returns to the house. Originally, I was intending to put it behind the house, but I just didn't like the idea of the two patios being like 10 feet apart.
Yeah, and my guess is the other person doesn't like it so much either. So one of the reasons that you're getting asked these questions is because we're supposed to grant the minimum variance that will allow the project to proceed. So that's why Matt's saying, can you move it, can you move it? That's a legitimate concern. And another factor that we have to consider is the extent of the variance. And that this is a large variance that you're asking for. But we have granted large variances before. And it doesn't really make much sense to me to deny this variance if you're going to have to come in next
Right.
month and ask for one in another part. And from an aesthetic standpoint, I think it's better where you're proposing it go than rather move it out toward the roads. That's me.
No, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like pretty much anywhere else he's going to move it that is aesthetically pleasing, because of the unique nature of the lot, it's going to
Yeah.
required a variance.
Yeah, I will tell you, to be honest with you, it would have been nicer for us, I suppose, if you had come in and said, I spoke with my neighbor, and my neighbor who is next door and whose line I'm approaching, doesn't have an issue with that. I don't know why you didn't do that, and I'm not asking you to tell me.
The neighbor whose line I am approaching, I did speak to. It's the neighbor.
It was the one that was okay with it?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm glad then. Good,
It was
good.
the unaffected, so to speak, neighbor that I did not speak to.
Okay, well, that's great then. I withdraw my comment. Okay. I don't see any call-in comments. I don't want to cut anybody off if there's any other questions. I don't see any call-ins, and I don't see any electronic submissions. So I'll ask anyone in the audience that cares to speak about this. Okay, great. Well, then let's proceed with its consideration, starting with the environmental.
Make a motion to declare this a type 2 action requiring no further analysis.
Did we get a second there from George? Okay, so a seeker motion by Matt to declare it type 2 and a second by George. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now the merits?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it. It looks nice. It's not certainly an undesirable change. As a fellow meat smoker, I understand why you would want to have a covered area for that. And yes, it can be achieved by another method, but it's a skinny lot, so pretty much anywhere there's going to need to be some sort of variance. And it's substantial. No getting around that. But because of the unique character of the lot, that's what sets this apart from perhaps other variants that are being sought. And I would note the patio itself is not gargantuan. It's not like he's looking to put up a huge structure, and it's a reasonably sized patio.
And I would think even his rear lot is his neighbor's side lot, which would only be impacted by a 10-foot variance.
Correct.
That would abut that anyways.
Yep.
Yeah, good point.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you could view this as also being a side lot or a side variance.
If it was next door, it would be.
Yeah. Which, yes, it's not going to have an adverse effect on the environment, and it's self-created, but I'm giving no consideration to that. So I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve for the reasons stated. And that's by Matt and a second by Andres. The only thing that I would add is, the variance, if granted, is going to run with the land. And what that means is if somebody buys your house, they're entitled to it. And your neighbor next door, who's okay with it, may move. So, one good thing that all users of the patio should keep in mind is be respectful of their neighbors, and I'm sure that will be the case with you. So, okay, so we have a motion to approve and a second. Any further comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, so good luck.
Thank you.
It's going to keep coming back on.
David and Nancy Shalacy, 3446 Atlantic Avenue, Penfield, New York, 14526. Requests approval for an extension to a nonconforming structure under Section 250-7.13 of the code and an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow the reconstruction and enlargement of an existing front porch with less front setback than required under Section 250-5.1- F1 of the code at 3446 Atlantic Avenue. The property is currently or formerly owned by David and Nancy Shalacy and is zoned RA-2, SBL number 110.04-1-9. This is application number 22Z-0028.
Okay, thanks.
Nancy Shalacy, 3446 Atlantic Avenue, Penfield.
Dave Shalacy, 3446 Atlantic Avenue.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Thorough application, so I appreciate that. summary that I pulled from that, your porch was damaged from that tree that fell on it.
Yes.
You're looking to have it repaired, or I guess rebuilt, because it can no longer be repaired as it sits. And so for that, new construction needs to occur in terms of new footings, new everything has to happen. So at that point, you're looking to bring it out 2.5 feet farther.
1 foot further toward the road and 2 feet on either side.
1 foot? I had 2.5 feet. Is that,
No, I don't think that's correct.
if not, we'll just update that
It says 1 foot in the letter.
in the letter. But I think
Yeah, I think the plan actually reflects a
Oh, does it?
2.5 foot.
Okay. I don't think it'll be 2 feet further.
Okay.
Wherever it's easiest to dig, the footers,
Okay.
is where we're going to put them.
So for our purposes tonight, should we say 1 foot?
I would say 1 foot is fine.
1 foot? Okay. So we're going to bring it 1 foot out closer to the road. And your home was built quite a while ago.
Yes.
And so the road has become closer to your home, and it was also built a lot closer to the road than it would be nowadays.
Correct.
And then it looks like you're also going to, at that point, go about 3.5 feet to either side, or I guess 3 foot, 3 inches to either side, make it a little bit wider on each side for a total of 25 feet in width.
My letter says 2 feet on either side, max.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll look back, because I've got 25 foot is the new width.
Is the max?
Well, is the width that we're proposing anyway, and it was listed at 18.6.
Yeah.
So,
It seems like there's a little confusion on the dimensions.
okay, so let's get those corrected. So if we're going to go 1 foot forward, and then we're going to go just 2 foot additional on each
2
side.
feet on either side, yes.
Okay, so that'll be 22 foot, 6 inches wide.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that makes it a little easier.
We want to make it aesthetically pleasing as well.
Yeah, yeah, and so that it stays with the scale of the front of the home. Okay, so with that construction, we're going to do new framing, new footers, new everything, because their builder, from what I understood, said the old stuff is no longer adequate to
Yeah,
build upon to be safe.
Yeah, the whole porch is like 1900 vintage, so no one wants to build a new porch on the old footers.
Correct. So in a sense, we're going to try to improve this, make it better than what it was for those purposes. Any issues closer to the road of 1 foot with the traffic or anything like that?
I don't believe
No.
so.
Okay. Any additional illumination that you would have on the front of the porch that might interfere with traffic?
No, we're going to try to keep it just the way it was.
Okay. So basically unlit as it sits right now.
There was one,
There's
one ceiling light.
Okay.
And at Christmas.
And at Christmas, we'll light up this size. Perfect. Perfect. In terms of the construction, same colors,
Yes.
similar materials for what you can find to match what you have?
Yes.
To the best of your abilities. That's all I've got.
All right, any other questions from the board?
No, just I live on Atlantic and I saw this happen and it was terrible, so.
Were you guys home when it happened?
No.
No, we were not.
Oy, man, oh man.
Came home to it.
Well, it's probably better than being there.
I know.
But who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe. It was all dark.
Yeah.
It was all dark. Everything was black because it hit the...
Hit the power line.
The power lines were out too for 4 days. All our power was out for 4 to 5 days.
I don't see
You
any
live on Atlantic? Whereabouts on Atlantic do you live?
Further down, further east, past Salt.
Yeah. It looks naked without the porch there.
It does. I'm excited for you guys to.
Yeah, we're anxious to get it back up.
Well, we know how she's going to vote.
I stopped what I was saying. Leave some suspense.
Don't play poker. All right, so we don't have any comments on the call-in, nor do we have any electronically, so
But if someone did want to call, they would call 340-8771.
in a hurry, yes. Anybody in the audience care to speak about this application? All right, then let's go ahead and proceed with its consideration.
Okay, I'm going to move that this is a type 2 action requiring no further review.
I will second that. So we have a seeker motion by Andres to declare it type 2, and I have seconded it. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And now the merits?
Okay, the merits. I am going to move that I guess there's 2 variances because we have to, one, do the conditional use. So I'm going to move to approve the conditional non-conforming structure, or how do we want to say that?
Expansion to.
Expansion.
Thank you, the expansion to the non-conforming. I'm going to move to approve that along with the request for the variance of 1 foot to the front and I think we said 2 foot to either side, so 22 feet wide, 6 inches in the width for the final size for the width. I'm going to move to approve that. I think this will be an improvement. The old was a 1900s construction, so in a sense for repairs, things like that. So I think part of what we have to do is say, was this use an improvement to it? And I think it will be, because it'll be new construction process and footings and things like that. So it will be safer, better built. It will still look nice with a home because they're not looking to make it much, much larger, just a little bit for space-wise. And so no undesirable changes were found because it's going to look similar to it. And there were no issues with it before, besides the tree that came through it.
It's certainly not self-created.
No.
Yeah. Okay. That's a motion to approve. Did we get a second yet?
I'll second that.
Okay, Laura has seconded the motion to approve for the reasons stated. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. None opposed? Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Betsy Brugg, Woods Oviatt Gilman, LLP, 1900 Bausch and Lomb Place, Rochester, New York, 14604. On behalf of Fairlane Drive LLC, requests approval for a special use permit for signage under Section 250-10.3-A of the code to allow three freestanding signs, whereas a maximum of 1 freestanding sign is permitted under Section 250-10.12-C of the code. 2 freestanding signs with less front setback than required under Section 250-10.12-D of the code, and a billboard sign, whereas billboard signs are not permitted under Section 250-10.11-F of the code at 1800 Empire Boulevard. The property is currently or formerly owned by E.C. Barton and Company and is zoned general business. SBL number 093.15-1-57. This is application number 22Z-0030.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Betsy Brugg. I'm with Woods Oviatt Gilman. Stephanie Albright is with APD. She's our project engineer. Mike McCracken is the developer, Hospitality Syracuse. The board might remember we were here last month. I wasn't here, but somebody else from the office was here, taking care of some site variances. Tonight we're here just to talk about the signage for the Taco Bell project. This is sort of the last stop in our approval process. We already have approval from the planning board, and we're here with the sign application. There are a number of items. It came in as 2 applications. That's why it's been combined. Let's see, what's the best way to go through this all? Which drawing do you think we should pull up?
Start with the building elevation?
Should we start with, yeah, I think we should start with the building elevations, maybe?
Sure.
Give everybody a little orientation to the Taco Bell.
I'm working on it.
Are you able to put this site plan on one screen and the building on the other, or you're,
I think I can.
then we might be able to kind of point to where things are?
I'm very impressed with the technology here.
There's one.
Got it half.
And we've got the site plan you want, right?
Yeah.
So as you all know, the proposed site is adjacent, it's in the parking lot area of what is currently the home outlet site. That parcel is being subdivided. Taco Bell will be on one part, home outlet on the other. They will have shared access on both Empire and Creek Street. So we've got the site plan up. It's kind of small. Okay.
So I guess with the building elevation first, Hospitality Syracuse has been kind of upgrading all of their buildings in the area. So the what the corporate would want is just a lot of purple, no brick, and kind of you would recognize it as a Taco Bell with the purple coloring. And Mike has been upgrading all of his buildings with this nice brick look, which if you've been out to the Taco Bell on Lehigh Station, or there's one at Chilai Plaza, up in Stone Road in Greece. There's several around now that have the brick, so it will be similar in look to those. And what we're finding with that nice building upgrade is you do lose that recognition of Taco Bell. So the signage is very important. If you took the signage off of here, you would have no idea what this is. There's no brand recognition with just a brick with a brick building. We have done this tower element. So as you look at the site plan, the northwest and northeast corners of the building will have a tower element to it. So we're proposing a sign on each side of that tower. And if you remove one, then it kind of looks unbalanced. And over the door, we're proposing a bell that is on the parking lot side near the ADA spaces. And you can tell that that brick is kind of inset a little bit, so it's designed around that sign. So the architects have really done a nice job of incorporating the signage with this brick building to give Taco Bell the recognition when you're traveling by on roads like Empire that are busy, traveling at a higher rate of speed, so that you can identify it and safely navigate into the correct lanes and access the site. So the two primary signs on the building that will really give Taco Bell that recognition are what you see in the middle on the north elevation. So that is the drive-through side of the building, and that's what you'll see first if you're traveling south on either Empire or Creek Street. The two signs on the east and west elevation that would directly face Empire and Creek are less significant for signage because you would need to be almost in front of the site to look up and see that sign. You're not going to notice it from as far away. So that signage, while it is signage, is much more of an architectural feature than trying to draw business in. And then the pylon sign we're proposing in the northwest corner of the site, and that is larger than the town code allows. The combined one is what we're proposing at the Creek Street entrance. The sign with just the Taco Bell on it is what will be in the northwest corner. And that shared pylon sign at the new Creek Street entrance will be important to Home Outlet and Taco Bell because there's no, Home Outlet especially, because they'll have no signage on their side of the building. So with a new entrance to really help tell customers what, the site they are entering into.
I'll add, that came in as a separate application because Home Outlet specifically wants that sign. It is the back of their building. If you're familiar, I'm sure you've all driven by. It's the back of a building. It's kind of nondescript. They will have a solid, essentially a solid fence blocking view of their building. It's just what the existing conditions are, and they don't have any identification on Creek Street. Plus, the entrance to the Taco Bell is on Creek Street is on the Home Outlet parcel.
So we did hear what you said after the last meeting, and I did watch the Chipotle meetings to kind of see what they came in with, and I did see how they changed their submittal to a smaller one over the door through the process. And I guess we have this very similar arguments for being on kind of an odd-shaped lot, fronting on two streets, so I think everybody understands that difference. But one of the main differences between the Chipotle building and the Taco Bell are those architectural features that I mentioned, and really trying to keep the building balanced with a sign on each side of the tower so it's symmetrical.
Yeah, I get that, but
I'll add one
no
other.
offense to any architect,
Yeah.
but people don't go to Taco Bell because it's a nice-looking building. They go there because they like the food. So, I understand.
And I think the other point with the freestanding sign on Creek Street that should be considered is not just the challenges that the Home Outlet has, but the entrance being on Creek Street is important to the extent that this is a tricky site plan. Unlike Chipotle, these two sites, while they're separate parcels, they're integrated, and it's very important that the traffic be able to maneuver safely.
Yeah.
So
The question for me there anyway is, how large does it have to be to accomplish that purpose? Because you are right that for residents too, that's going to be a new entrance. I think it's gated now or something. but nobody uses it, it's not open. So, and I think it's actually going to be nicer because a lot of folks would probably prefer to come in to all of those businesses on Creek Street. Well, come in, but getting out, they certainly would rather go out on Creek Street than on Empire. So that would be my issue with those signs is, I don't know how far it exceeds the code, but the closer that you can get at the code would be better in my mind. And then, I forget how many building signs did we end up with Chipotle? Does anybody know?
There's 3 for Chipotle.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say that's assuming you're counting the logo and the sign together, because if you look at them, they're actually separate.
Yeah.
I don't know how they were counted.
Yeah, we count them as 3 signs. So.
So Chipotle has 3.
McDonald's has 4 out there. Starbucks has 4.
How about Key Bank?
I believe they also, I think they are the same as McDonald's.
KeyBank has 3.
Okay.
Is it just 3? I may have taken pictures.
Yeah, that's 3 building signs without counting the freestanding.
All right. So the one on Creek Street, Andy, is a billboard sign because it's actually, a billboard sign is there's a sign on a street, but the property or the business is actually located, addressed on another street. Is that why it's a billboard sign?
Right, because the sign is on a different parcel than the business.
Yeah, okay, well, that might apply, but it really doesn't apply here because of the weird nature of it. So, okay, that one is pretty much an easy one. All
And
right.
of course, Delta Sonic has, I don't know how many signs, because I tried to count them, but I almost got myself killed counting them, so.
I went through there the other day, there's nobody in line to get my car washed, and my permit had expired. And now I look up on my mirror, and all of a sudden, there's 10 people behind me honking their horn. Wasn't my fault. And I did address it, Andres, in case you're wondering. All right, any other questions from the board? I guess what I'm thinking is I understand a need for a sign on Creek Street. There's not going to be a Taco Bell freestanding on Empire?
Yes, there is.
Okay, all right. So you need that. You need permission to have 2 freestanding signs. The billboard thing it is what it is, okay. And then you're looking for 5 building mounted when you're entitled 1? Okay. So I think we have that clear. Let me ask if anyone in the audience cares to speak about this application. And if there aren't any other questions from the board.
I was going to say, are the other locations that you cited, do they look just like this one?
Not exactly alike.
Do they all have the towers on every corner with signs all over each corner?
So we have done a few locations with 2 towers. It depends on how it's laid out on the site, because the backside being the Creek Street side is really just a cooler. So that's kind of another upgrade that they do is they kind of build it full height, and when it's going to be viewed from 2 streets, they'll add the tower on. So yes, we have had some locations with multiple towers, and similar to your concerns, we have come up with the same signage questions and issues at other sites, and there are some out there that only have 1 sign on one of the towers.
Okay, thank you.
But most of them locally have both towers covered, like Chili, Paul Plaza.
Yeah.
Over on Stone Road and West Ridge, they have them on both towers. So most of them are designed with signage on both towers.
Okay.
I mean, the second tower wouldn't be useful. It's an added expense, and we probably wouldn't design it that way if it didn't have some sort of recognition on it.
All right, that's
You know,
fair
they're not
enough.
very large buildings, so it adds architectural interest.
All right, anything else from the board? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Again, I don't see anything call in or electronic submission, so.
I have a question.
Sure.
So will the board vote on the signage individually, one by one?
Yeah, we'll
You don't up and down the entire
run through each
application.
of them and,
Okay.
yeah, take them, yes, we will. I actually, when you said you had a question, it reminded me that I still had one. On the size of the billboard sign, why does it need to be that big?
Billboard being the one that's on Creek Street, right?
Yeah.
So it's both home outlet And so in round numbers, I think the home outlet is about 20 square feet, and then the Taco Bell is 13 square feet, plus or minus. So it's because it's two users. The home outlet, when you look at the existing, so it's going to match the existing one that's on Empire for the home outlet portion. It's not, I know, 20 square feet is what the town allows, but it's not a huge sign when you're going up and down a busy street. So we kept, home outlet wanted to keep it the same sign to match Empire. And then the Taco Bell will be a custom sign to kind of match the Taco Bell logo and everything, but to be the same width as the home outlet sign.
Yeah.
In this case, it's representing two businesses.
Right.
Yeah, I certainly get that. And I do think another reason like I was trying to say before in any event, I think it would be better for cars at least to exit out on Creek Street. So encourage people to use that as well. Okay. All right. Well, we don't have any other comments, so I will proceed with the consideration of the environmental if we're ready for that. And I'd make a motion to classify this as an unlisted action under seeker and to further declare a negative declaration.
Second.
All right, so I've made that motion, Christine, unlisted action and a neg deck, and Matt seconded it. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it's not going to be a surprise to anybody if I say I would approve the same number of building-mounted signs as we gave to Chipotle. I certainly understand the arguments that both Chipotle and Taco Bell have made, but I do think 3 signs will be sufficient to identify the business there. Also, even the color of the building, I think, itself will be something that the people recognize the business by. I don't really have any strong feelings about which 3. I certainly am willing to talk about that with the fellow board members or even the applicant, but on the number, that's where I would keep it. That's where my motion would be, a permit for 3 of them. And then I am okay with the signs on both, the pole signs on both Empire and Creek. This is really an unusual strip of property in our town, but it's actually a very good piece of commercial property. I think I live right around the corner, so I'm there every day. Row of houses, and then all of a sudden you start having some commercial use, and it's, for the most part, it's pretty well maintained and pretty busy. The bank sat there for quite some time, but now that's Chipotle, and the parking lot for the home outlet does go unused a lot. So it's going to be really busy with the restaurant there, but you guys have done a good job of plotting everything out. That's why we gave you the variances last month. Going to be safe. By the way, I don't think it's a secret, but do you know when you're going to add the other lane? You have any idea? Wait and see.
I wish I did. The technology still isn't ironed out yet with corporate.
Okay.
So
all right, that was really more curiosity than anything else. But in any event, I do think this use is going to make it even better, that particular property. And these signs, the ones that I'm recommending for approval, I think are appropriate given the area and the proposed use. So I think I covered them all, at least in my motion. So it's 3 building signs. We can talk about where. I don't know if you have any comments on that, where you would like them or what you would like them.
If we get 3, we would like the 2 on the north side and then the 1 over the door, so that the east and west would have no signs.
Everybody okay with those?
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're good with that. And then the Creek Street entrance, my motion would be to grant as requested. Along with the setback variance, of course.
I'm okay with all that.
And the billboard.
So I'll second that motion.
Okay. Just waiting for Andy to acknowledge that he understood what the heck I was talking about.
So could we, as far as this application goes, this is for a request for 3 freestanding signs, which are referring to the signs on the home outlet property.
Right.
So we got the existing one on the Empire, and then we're considering 2 proposed, because one's for Taco Bell, one's for home outlet on Creek.
On Creek. My motion would be to approve all of those.
Okay. And then,
You've got 2 different properties, though. Are you,
so this one is for the home outlet property.
That's the tabled action.
No.
No.
This is the new, so the new one is for the
Nice
home
try.
outlet property to allow 3 freestanding signs, 2 freestanding signs with less setback, and the billboard sign.
Right. Well stated, and my motion is to approve all of those.
Second?
Okay. So go ahead and keep spitting it out, Nate. We want to make sure that we get everything, or we don't want to, as much as we like these folks, we don't want to see them next month.
So for the tabled application, we have, the one request is for greater graphics, trademarks, and logos. And that would be just for, I believe, the sign over the door.
Right? We didn't really talk about that, but I didn't have a problem with that last month, so I'll add that to my motion to approve.
And then we have the request for larger traffic control signs.
I'm all right with those as well.
And again, with the larger logo on the traffic control signs.
Well, tell me why you need that. The traffic control is fine, but I think we limited the logo on in Baytown, didn't we?
Yep.
So why do you need a logo? Andy, it's a larger logo than allowed, or just a logo, period?
It is to allow the logo on the traffic signs, because the signs are, by code, they're only allowed to
For traffic.
Enter, exit.
enter, exit.
Yeah. So did we have anything for Chipotle on that? I don't recall that.
I don't think they proposed any.
Okay. And then, I don't know that they put them up, but I know in Baytown, there were a lot of directionals, but I don't know that they had that logo issue.
We did one with, just recently with a car wash, where they had the logo on the
Oh,
side.
that's right on 250. Yeah, okay. And what did we do there? We didn't,
We had them downsize the sign to stay within the appropriate allowable size. But you let them have the logo on.
okay.
Right.
I believe both Starbucks and KeyBank have the logo on those.
We're
Okay,
talking about the logos on like the enter and exit.
the arrows and
Correct.
stuff, yeah, the directional ways. Yeah, okay. Well, there's precedent for granting those as well, so I'm fine with those.
I put maybe the condition, same condition you put with the car wash, that the size of the sign.
That's fair. So logo can stay, but sign has to meet code.
Okay.
That would be my motion. Thanks, George.
Then the next one we have is the request to allow more building signs than allowed. And I think we already got that ironed out with where they were proposing 3.
Correct? They've noted which 3.
And a larger freestanding sign than allowed. This would be the one on the Taco Bell property on Empire.
That's fine.
And then we have that same sign with less front setback, and that same sign with less side setback.
I'm fine with the setbacks, given the, yeah, the shape of the lot
That's it.
and other signs that are within the setback as well. Okay, so that's, thank you for reiterating that. Andy did a good job. That's my motion.
are those really two motions, though? I think there should be a motion for each parcel and a vote to keep them kind of separate, don't you think?
Sure. So, one motion for the home property to cover those. That'll be a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And
Sorry,
the-
who just seconded that?
Matt, sorry. And then the Taco Bell property, I would make the motion as specified by Andy for the Taco Bell property to approve.
Second.
So I made the motion to approve,
We
and
need to do seeker for the Taco Bell.
Oh, so close, Dave.
I think you already did seeker last time.
Oh, save.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yep.
Did we?
Yeah.
well, let me check to see if it's signed.
Because you would have granted
approved
the
some
other.
variance.
You
We did, we
the other
approved the
so
variances, so,
Yep,
okay.
you're right. You're right.
I think the notes
mistake.
indicate that too.
Knew it all along.
All right, so the motion is to approve the requests as outlined by Andy for the Taco Bell property.
Second.
And Matt has seconded that motion. No, he hasn't?
Yeah, no, I'll just go over this with Andy later.
Yeah. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wondering where the yellow glasses are, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Where are your blue glasses?
Yeah.
That's fair question.
$10 from Amazon.
Dan, I got the new light gray ones in
Nice.
your honor.
Yeah. Kept the contacts on today.
Can't see a thing.
Well, believe it or not, we are moving along, folks. It may not seem like that, but we are. All right. Let's go to the next application, please.
David Brault, Rochester Institute of Technology, 100 Old Quarry Lane, Rochester, New York, 14625. Requests approval for an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a taller fence than permitted under Section 250-7.1-D of the code at 100 Old Quarry Lane. The property is currently or formerly owned by Rochester Institute of Technology and is zoned R-1-20, SBL number 123.15-1-1. This is application number 22Z-0031.
Okay, David Bro on behalf of RIT, 100 Old Quarry Lane.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So you're here for another variance for a taller fence than is permitted by code. You're looking for an 8-foot fence when 6 foot is permitted. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
And you want to use it to protect fruit trees from deer?
That's correct.
It's probably a high deer traffic area.
Very much so.
Yeah. By the way, how's everything going there? Is that, as a school, anticipated it, and is it going well?
Well, it's been a long construction project, so we've had the bumps along the way that are sort of normal for this sort of thing, but overall, it's going great.
And these fruit trees are going to be, are they already there, or are they going to be planted?
We planted them.
And are they utilized by students at RIT?
Yeah, there will be.
Okay.
Yes.
Like for some.
Yeah, so RIT owns and operates its own dining system, so we can choose where we source our produce from. So this will go straight to the dining halls.
Wow. Okay. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And what kind of trees?
So we have a variety: wine crisp, honey crisp. We chose like 10 different varieties: Spartan, Sansa.
So all apples?
Yeah, all apples right now. We might mix in a couple other fruit trees, but it's all apples. Right now.
And this is not anywhere near a roadway.
It's not near the roadway. It's not in view of any of the neighboring properties. It's right in the middle. It's surrounded kind of by tall hedgerows of trees.
And
really no one
so
can
there's
see it.
going to be no sightline issues or no distractions to people on the road. Or,
That's correct. I anticipate no impact to any of the surrounding properties.
And there is another fence on the property. You were here before for a variance.
That's correct. So we were granted a variance to put an 8-foot fence around a vegetable garden.
Okay. And it's kind of probably a silly question, but there's been no issues with that. No complaints about.
That's correct. No issues.
Existing.
Let's hope a deer doesn't call in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Make sure you check.
Rudolph's on the line right now. All right, I have no further questions.
Yeah. Okay, we,
Oh, nope, it's blitzing.
no call-ins, no electronic. Any other questions from the board?
No.
All right, anybody in the audience care to speak about this? Interesting issue that, there are a lot of folks in town that have gardens, and I would just note that this is a fence, but it's not really a fence.
Yeah.
But, we'll see. Okay.
All right. So,
Going with the environmental?
yeah, for seeker, I would make a motion to declare this a type 2 action requiring no further review.
I'll second.
All right. Matt has made a motion under seeker, declared a type 2, and Andres second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, on the merits?
I would make a motion to approve the application. I mean, this is nowhere near a road, so a lot of the concerns that people would have with an 8-foot fence, if you want to call it a fence, just is non-existent. This is a huge property, setback, very unique property, being utilized for educational purposes. And yes, they have another fence on the property, but I understand why they want this, and I see just no issue with it, so I would make a motion to approve.
Yeah, I would just add that I'm not sure, what other alternatives there are.
I mean, I've seen deer jump over 6-foot fences.
Oh, yeah. So, and
The only alternative would be you have to have 2 6-foot fences separated by about 4 feet, so it would be a cost increase, and, yeah.
wow, I never even thought about that, but, okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good luck.
I don't know if anyone,
Second.
second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Really? We didn't get a second? Well, okay, so George seconded it. Very good, thank you, good luck.
Thank you all. Thanks.
Okay,
Howard Hanna Real Estate Services, 217 West Main Street, Rochester, New York, 14614. Requests approval for a special use permit for signage under Section 250-10.3-A of the code to allow 3 building signs, whereas a maximum of 1 building sign is permitted under Section 250-10.13-C of the code, with greater total sign area than permitted under Section 250-10.13-B of the code at 1930 Empire Boulevard. The property is currently or formerly owned by 1930 Empire Boulevard Holdings, LLC, and is zoned general business. SBL number 093.02-1-19. This is application number 22Z-0032.
okay, so if you guys just want to introduce yourselves, it doesn't matter what order you go.
Mike Bonanno from Skylight Signs, 60 Industrial Park Circle, Rochester, New York, 14624.
Okay,
I'm Paul Fody with the DeMarco Group, and I actually am representing the owners of 1930 Empire Boulevard.
all right.
Pete DiMartino, I'm the current manager at Howard Hanna on Empire Boulevard.
Louis Alimo, I'm the current regional manager with Howard Hanna.
Okay, great, thanks. So can we pull up the building? The building that we're talking about here is one that you're going to share with Verizon, is that correct?
Yes, this is correct. So Verizon moved in approximately 4 years ago, and this space has been vacant. Howard Hanna has a lease that's actually contingent upon receiving signage. The space is about 3,000 square feet. One of the reasons we're requesting 3 signs is because if you enter Baytown, you'll notice that through the main entrance, you'd only see 1 sign. If you're over in the Walmart parking lot, you'd only see 1 sign. And then if you come over on the Brandt Point side, you only see 1 sign. So it's important for Howard Hanna to be identified, and easily found as people visit the plaza.
Yeah, I have to tell you, when I first saw this application, I thought it was kind of a no-brainer in the sense of saying, well, Verizon got 2, so these guys should get 2. But then I actually drove around the other day, and there is a difference in my mind anyway. We can have you elaborate on that. But if I'm not mistaken, kitty corner from where your location will be is the liquor store.
Yeah, that's correct. So Baytown Liquor.
And nobody snicker as to why I know where the liquor store is. But the liquor store, I think you guys probably came in and asked for more signage on that because of the location of that. And even though I'm really talking more to my fellow board members here, even though it's the same building as Verizon, and Verizon probably asked for 3 and got 2, your portion of the building is a little different than the Verizon's, and I think it's more akin to the liquor store. That's me anyway, and so I don't want to sit here and have to make your case for you, but I would ask, another question is, do the signs have to be so, if you had 3, do they have to be so large that you would exceed the amount permitted by the degree that you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on our staff, one of our vice presidents, Paul Colucci, he believes that the signage at the current sign size in terms of square footage is within the allowable square footage of signs. If it isn't, we're willing to reduce the size of maybe one of the signs so that we're within the allowable square footage.
So in other words, the disagreement I get, okay, but if Paul is wrong, you're saying that you'll withdraw that portion of the application, so you'll bring the total of the 3 signs within whatever square footage is.
Correct.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a challenge to me, Andy, when Paul comes in and you guys can sharpen pencils. But okay, we'll consider that part withdrawn then. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No.
No. I don't see. I'm gonna grab that all night long. I don't see any call-ins. I don't see any electronic submissions. Anyone in the audience care to speak about this application? Okay, well then we can proceed. We'll start with the environmental. I will make a motion to consider this an unlisted action under seeker and then to further declare a negative declaration.
Second.
All right, Andres seconded that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And on the merits, I would make a motion to approve the request for 3 building mounted signs. Again, making the distinction, even though Verizon got 2 and it's on the same building, the fact that they're on the
So orientation's the side.
the east side of the building, absolutely right. And we've granted a similar request from a similar location within a stone's throw of this. I think the signs are, they look nice. It's not going to be anything that's going to look too much, going to go along with the plaza area. So I think it will conform nicely to other uses in the plaza. So that's my motion.
I'll second. Go ahead.
3
Second.
seconds. Wow. Okay, we'll give that one to Laura then. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
SWBR 387 East Main Street, Rochester, New York 14604. On behalf of Penfield Heights LLC, requests approval for an area variance under section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a building with greater height than permitted under section 250-5.12-I-1 of the code and table 6.1 of the Penfield Mixed Use Development Manual at 1820 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Penfield Heights LLC and is zoned mixed use district. SBL number 125.01-1-25.1. This is application number 22Z-0030.
And before you start, let me take this chance to remind folks, if they have any comments about any application tonight, they may phone 340-8771 or submit a comment electronically at penfield.org. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you before you started.
No problem. It's good to be here. Betsy Brugg with Woods Oviatt, Rob Fornataro with SWBR. We're really pleased to be here. This is, I hope, we're near the finish line on this project. We're here for a height variance, but I think it's important that I give you some background and some context for what we're here for. So the Penfield Heights project is in the mixed-use district, which is a relatively new district in the town of Penfield. We've been working with this fantastic mixed-use manual that lays out lots and lots and lots of requirements that apply to the project. This project started in the pipeline in January of 2021. It has been a work in progress. This board is seeing just one little issue out of this project, but essentially I think we've been to probably most of the planning board meetings since, let's see, this project started in January. The original version actually was denied. The planning board provided the applicant with a very lengthy resolution that essentially laid out a roadmap for what they needed to do if they wanted to get their project approved. These guys went back to work, redesigned the project. We started, I think, back in January or February this year with a new project design. It has been, I don't want to say micromanaged, but we have been engaged with the staff and the planning board on a continuous, nonstop basis. I've pretty much told everybody I know I'm not available on Thursday nights because I have a date with the planning board. So we've been going through this very lengthy review process, addressing each and every issue. I think we have addressed every issue on this project, and the planning board was very close to approving the project. One of the board members then looked over at council and said, by the way, we just want to make sure we have the authority to waive the height on this project.
They do not.
He took his time going through it and advised them that they did not. They've only approved one other project in the mixed-use district, and they did grant some waivers. I don't know if height was one of them or not, but essentially Pete said, no, you got to send them to the zoning board. The zoning board has not been involved in projects in the mixed-use district before, but that is our one and only issue. The architecture has been reviewed by the planning board. It's also been reviewed by the planning board's architectural consultant who did a review and I think looked at the height, looked at the code compliance, looked at kind of all aspects of the project. I'm trying to emphasize that every piece of this project works together to create a whole that is in furtherance of the goals of the mixed-use district. So the building that we're talking about, if you want to pull up the image of the layout. This is a pretty substantial mixed-use project. There are 5 buildings. This is sort of a middle building. This is called Building D, and we're talking about a very small area that requires a height variance. Rob will talk about the architectural design, the importance of what this adds. It actually is a huge aesthetic, it has aesthetic significance. It contributes to the mixed-use district. In furtherance of the mixed-use district, we're creating kind of like the center, what do we call it, a village square concept. I'm like taking his thunder here. So I just want to emphasize how important a piece of the overall project this variance is, even though it's a relatively small variance, and it is. It's a variance for essentially the height of, I think, less than 10% of the height of that building on the back of the building where it has really no particular visibility from the street, but even if it was visible, nobody would say, hey, this building is way too tall, because the reason that the variance is needed is because this particular parcel slopes down so that there's actually garages underneath. I'm totally taking his presentation. I'm sorry, Rob. But I just wanted to give you kind of the context of where we've been, how long we've been working on this, that this is not a variance that was just kind of thrown in there and can be easily tweaked. In all honesty, if we didn't get this variance, the project would crumble, and it's like dominoes. It affects every other aspect of the project. There is a letter that you should have received from the planning board giving you their recommendation of approval. Again, I can't emphasize how important this is. I do think that this particular variance, it's one variance for a very, very large project, and it's a very, very small variance at that. I think we meet the area variance standards. I actually have gone ahead and drafted up a little narrative. It's really nothing more than what I just said, but I'll just...
A little narrative that looks like about 50.
Oh, no, it's because I have to kill trees and bring like 12 copies of it, but give you one copy or many copies. But essentially, it just covers how we address the standards. I'm happy to go through it in more detail. It's a little bit redundant of what you have, but I just think it's important that we document it. So much has gone into this project before we got here. If we are successful here, we expect to go back to the planning board and hopefully receive an approval on the project. I think we've addressed all the other issues. I'm going to turn it over to Rob, at least talk about kind of why this variance is appropriate. He can talk to you about the beautiful architecture that's proposed here and how this works with the mixed-use district.
Thanks. Yeah, you pretty much said it all.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I just want to express that this is a unique site. I don't know if you know this, but from 250 on north of the page, it slopes about 20 feet down to the edge of the property. And so we've tried to right-size this and working with the entry sequence and this four corners we're trying to create. So you come into the site, whether you're on a bike or walking or a car, and we want you to engage with the architecture. So there's two buildings that are about 2 stories at the west side there, which is 250. And then when you come in, we have a larger building that's set within the center of the center of the site. And as it slopes down, we said we wanted to put the tallest part in the center so it'd have less impact on the overall project. So there's 2 elements there that flank it, and you see them there on those little drawings there, those elevations. And just so happens, and actually your drawing is I don't know where you have that. It's a little wrong. The area that's actually violating the variance is half of that roof there. Because on one side is where we have the streetscape there with all the retail shops, it actually complies. It's at 55 feet. But because we've carved it out on the back side, which is that bottom side there, the east side, if you look at there, it actually goes down because there's parking there, and we took advantage of having parking garages, so that actually exceeds it. But it's only that small portion there on the east side, which isn't engaging with the road or anything. So, and then we just wanted to continue that gable end. And just so you know, it's the very top, the very top of the gable, the peak of the ridge to the ground floor. That's how we measured that.
I think this is what was in, I don't
that's
know,
different.
this is the one that was in the application.
This drawing is what's in the application.
Yeah, that's what we got submitted.
Well, anyways, it's a little less than that, just note that, but it's, as you mentioned, it's less than 10% of the total roof area. We really do think it adds a lot of character. I mean, to clop that off or bring that whole thing down, we tried a couple things and it just wasn't working with the way that's 3 stories on one side and you know, essentially 4 stories on the other side.
So from the roadway, I guess in the future, would you see do all the roof lines line up, or do they follow the grade of the property, since you said the property, you know, slopes?
They pretty much
like
do.
When you're going along, do you see all consistent roof peaks, or do you see buildings kind of scattered at different heights throughout the property that you're proposing here?
Yeah, if you're coming down 250 and you're turning into the site from a vehicle, those 2 buildings right there are about 8 feet higher than that building.
Than the building that's the question.
Yeah,
so they're 8 foot higher. If I was to look out and, you know, I guess run a horizontal line with a laser, those would still be higher than what this one is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Because they have roofs as well.
Because of the slopes of the property, the grade. Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Is this the correct?
That is the correct one.
I'm just going to submit this. This is the copy I have in my copy of the application, so I don't know what happened. I didn't.
Yeah, but we should have it if it's the correct one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and hand this to Andy.
I guess one question I have is, you know, everyone's been emphasizing how important this high portion of the building was, but it just seems like such a big oversight to all of a sudden say, oh, whoops, we're, I mean, in my mind, 1-story difference, because we're saying 11 feet. And that's almost a story of a building off in terms of for an engineer to go, oh, well, that was an oversight. That just seems like a lot to be like, whoops. I guess, you know, how does that happen in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's an architectural expression. And, you know, we really were looking, as you come in the site, it does meet the intent of the code. It does meet the code, actually, from the front of the site. It's
almost, or else you guys wouldn't be here.
Yeah, it's the back side, just the very back side, which looks to Wickham Farms, which is thousands and thousands of feet away, and there's a wetland between it. So we've tried to be sensitive to that, and putting it in the middle of the site, you know, it's very complicated. There's a lot of nuances to this site. There's grade, there's streetscapes, there's handicap accessibility. We have to meet all these requirements. We have a bridge in the center of these 2 that connect the buildings. We're trying to create this moment there where people can gather. There'll be a fire pit there and signage there that's, you know, marks this community space here that's also has a retail component and a commercial component. So we're trying to draw people there, and that is most of the reason for doing that and placing it in that area. I mean, to put it up in front of 250 would not be the right thing, so we've taken a lot of iterations of this and sort of worked this with the planning board.
So this gable, I guess that you're showing here, this gable has two different elevations on it for the peak?
No, but
so then the whole thing would be the same height?
But the front side complies. We just took a middle line to the actual midline. How far back do you go to where it complies? Is it right at that streetscape, or is it?
And it's because on one side, it
right.
kind of goes like this. And so
It's like a walkout basement.
Yeah, so here it's in compliant, but here it's not.
It's just in the back.
Yeah, so
it's just in the back.
okay. It's one ridge line that goes.
And this property's unique in that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do think that we meet the variance criteria, the benefit to the applicant. Obviously, they can't do this project without this variance. The detriment, there's none. This is actually a great project. A lot of work has gone into this project, not just by the applicant, but everybody that's touched this project on the town side, the planning board, to really arrive at what we believe is an approvable project, and that's going to be consistent with what the town wants to see developed in the mixed-use district.
Yeah, and another, well, there are a couple of things, just sort of comments maybe is, it's, I don't think it's over dramatic to say it's been a struggle for probably everybody involved, but it is a new district, and you learn as you move along. I know that we had the jurisdictional question that you mentioned, but we're here.
At the 11th hour, yeah.
But we're here, and you're glad to see us, I'm sure. And then there's the issue of the methodology to determine the height. So there are reasons to try to work things out and move stuff along.
Yeah, the town used an unusual, well, whatever. I don't want to get into the methodology.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that there was an issue there.
Right, yeah. There's been a lot, so much has gone into this whole project to get to this point.
So to me, that's another thing, if we can come to some reasonable ground here, and if that includes approving a variance, but it's also, as I said, lessons learned. I'm glad you pointed out the unique nature of this, because, you develop a new district that people are excited about, and if you not immediately, but soon thereafter, you start deviating from that volume that you had there, then it's like, well, why the heck did you do it to begin with? So we are dealing with a lot of that, but the main factor that I see here for me personally is there's a lot of roof there, a lot of height, and this variance request, if you look at it that way, is not really, even as a percentage of all the roof line there, it's not a large variance. And then you add in the topography and the questions that Andres was asking about the site, and that you were mentioning about how you look, the two buildings up front are going to actually look higher than this because of the topography. It doesn't, in my mind anyway, seem to be a substantial variance in that request. So that's where I'm coming down on this in any event. Again, it was, we have a new district, and we're trying to stick to it. I'm sure planning board was doing its best as well. Any other comments from the board? Don't see any.
I will
Either electronic or phone calls. Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, well then let's proceed with the consideration. I will make a motion under seeker to declare this an unlisted action and further to declare a negative declaration.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion on seeker? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then I will I will defer to Andres.
I was waiting to see how far you'd go. You've got the merits for me. Go for it.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
So I think you were with the smoker guy when he was...
Yeah.
I'm going to make a motion to approve this variance. I don't, in terms of, from the topography, the impact is very, very minimal on this, or I guess we presume it'll be minimal since it's all in, design phase. There really are no adverse impacts that'll be, created by us in terms of sightline, because as you already stated, some of the buildings, when you look out across the site will already sit higher because of the topography of the land there. And it's not substantial when you look at considering all the roofs that we do have out there. It's first, it's just a portion of the building that's not the entire building, I guess, in a sense that we're not looking at. So with that, I will move to approve.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Andres to approve for the reasons stated, and a second by Matt. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
We appreciate it.
Andy, do you want to?
Oh, yeah. Or actually,
Oh, Chris.
Either one of us.
to the
Got
bottom.
got another one here,
Sorry.
too.
Should I?
Okay.
And I do, earlier today, I thought that I hadn't noticed the May 12th memo from Planning Board. So I thought they were sort of ambivalent, but I stand corrected. That it was, we've had that memo for a while. I just missed it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Onward.
Okay. Marathon Engineering, 39 Cascade Drive, Rochester, New York, 14614. On behalf of Heritage Christian Services, requests approval for an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow an existing detached garage with less setback than required under Section 250-5.1-F1 of the code at 2730 Atlantic Avenue. The property is currently or formerly owned by Heritage Christian Services and is zoned R-1-20, SBL number 124.01-1-2. This is application number 22Z-0034.
Yeah, good evening. My name's Lucas Bush, and I'm from Marathon Engineering. I'm joined by Dan Stewart of Heritage Christian. We currently have an application into the planning board to construct a group home on the corner of Atlantic and Scribner. So that would be a subdivided piece of this property in question. Currently, the property has an existing farmhouse with a garage, and we'll be splitting off the western portion of that to develop. So it came up during the engineering review that, hey, that piece that you're leaving to the east with the existing home and garage technically has a pre-existing nonconformity. The garage is 12 feet from the rear property line where it should be 30. I don't know exactly when that was constructed, but it was a long time ago. So we're here to formalize that and to request a variance for that setback.
Okay.
So thanks so much for the application. I just want to clarify a couple things to start with. So my first question, I know you mentioned your other application and desire to subdivide, but this garage is pre-existing, and whether or not you subdivide, this needs to be approved or declined either way. Is that?
Yeah, I guess any action on that property would prompt, would bring up this pre-existing nonconformity.
Okay. So is the garage currently functional?
Yeah, it's a usable garage. It's in good shape too.
Would it be possible to just demolish it?
That wouldn't, right, anything's possible,
I
but
mean-
yes, no. That wouldn't be my objective, is to demolish it. I think it's an asset to the house.
Any concerns with the specific structure or where it's located from that standpoint? And this was obviously put here by the previous owners?
Yes, I believe this was in position prior to the school subdivision in the school coming in here.
So maybe the current application that's pending with the planning board, that hasn't been decided?
No, there's still some stuff we're working through with the town in terms of that application. Yeah.
And we've gotten some, I don't know, Dan, do I talk about the letters that we've
Sure,
received?
you can. Are you aware of them and you've seen them? Okay, well then, okay. Yeah, of course, Laura. So-
I just didn't know if you had, so there's obviously a lot of feedback that we've gotten. We've received two specific requests to not proceed with this variance request. Have you had a chance to look at those? Do you have anything to say in regards to those?
We have looked at them, yes. We'll take the town's lead on what concerns you have with regards to the letters.
So Dan, I have a question on that, just for clarification.
Yeah.
Those letters seem to be directed towards the additional project and have, quite honestly, seem to have nothing to do with the bearing of this variance. This is just picking up an old variance. I would submit that they're not relevant to this variance. They are relevant to the other project, and I think they should be forwarded to the town for this, but.
Yeah, they probably have. I think, well, let's make sure we know what we're talking about here. So I've pulled one up here dated April 13th by Mark Sowden. And I agree with your characterization of that letter. It addresses issues that I'm sure are important. I just don't know that they're germane to this application either, except in the sense that if we deny this application, well, Laura, do you mind?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, if we deny this application, are you still going to move forward? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you do if we deny this application in order to move forward?
We could take 18 foot off the shed.
Okay. So it wouldn't destroy it, but you'd make it a lot smaller.
I could, yes.
All right. And if that were to happen, all of the issues, to me anyway, expressed in this letter and the email would still exist, would be addressed, I think, appropriately and properly by the planning board, which has not finished its review. But it's a good point to make. People are, as I said at the very beginning of the meeting, people are welcomed to come in here and give us their opinions and their thoughts about applications, and we are obligated to consider them. But we're also obligated to consider facts and issues that are germane to the particular application. So I hear what you're saying, George, totally get it, but at the same time want to be respectful of the public's right to come in and comment on applications. So having said that, I guess I just want to make sure, I was a little bit confused by the application, but the house and the garage are going to remain on the same plot, right? So it's not like we're going to have a garage without a house, which I think would require another
That's correct.
variance.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's essentially the remaining lands of the proposed project. It's what's left over.
Yeah. And when are you going into planning board next?
Next week. We've been there once already last month, and that's when this issue was identified. And I understand there was a discussion internally with town staff about how to handle this pre-existing nonconformity, whether it requires a variance or not.
Well, and that's honestly one of the things that, in reviewing the application and seeing the memo, I thought that it might be appropriate for us to table this to try to clarify that issue and see exactly what's going to happen with planning board. So at the end of this, I think I'm going to, I know it's your lead, but I would.
I will take your.
I guess I'd ask you to make a motion to table so that we can consider that and try to clarify, because it might be that we end up somebody advising us that this matter doesn't need to appear before us.
Mr. Chairman?
I don't know. Yes.
So the issue did come up in a discussion with staff about this being a pre-existing non-conforming structure because it existed before, the code setback requirement was in place. And after discussion, we concluded that it was the subdivision that triggered the need for the variance because it needs to be in compliance. Otherwise, if it just stayed like this, there would be no need for a variance because it's pre-existing non-conforming structure. So,
yeah, I get that, but I think I just I feel the need to talk about that a little bit more and get that clarified in my mind anyway. But let's get back to the actual application. Is there any more questions on the, I mean, it's a pretty clear application in the sense you have one property and you want to split it.
There's going to be no changes to the garage, to the structure, to the lighting,
Correct.
anything at all.
Yeah, we don't want to change that existing functioning farmhouse.
So if I were to drive by that farmhouse today, and then you're 100% successful before the planning board, and it's subdivided, and you build the project that you want to build, and 3 years from now I drive by it, at least that house and that garage are going to look exactly the same.
Correct. Yeah, and if I could just interject one more thing, I believe that the planning board is waiting for us to get a decision from the zoning board. This is sort of one of the checks that they tabled us on.
Yeah, you're probably right about that, but that's okay. That might be their issue because, as I said, in my mind, I'm not 100% clear that we are properly before this board. You know, Pete rendered his opinion, but I just want to feel more comfortable before we take any action on that. And I know that means you're going to come back in a month, but the alternative is to take other action tonight, and I don't think you want me to take the alternative action, at least in my mind, on it. So it's probably something that I wish we had a little bit better communication with the planning board on this, but.
Dan, if I could interject.
Oh, sure.
Go ahead and make your decision. If you wanted to say take the garage down, I'll take the garage down. I'm not going to go another month.
Okay.
This is a pre-existing, non-conforming,
I get
Mr.
it.
Gray subdivided this in
Yep.
benefit of the town of Penfield with the school and everything behind it. If that's the decision, then let's get going with it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that,
Yep.
but I would also say this board still has the authority to table something even over objection, and if you want to
Well, we'll pull the application, we'll take it down, and therefore we won't need to come back to this board,
honestly,
correct?
that's your choice. I would
Okay.
suggest that you consider it a little bit more, because frankly, it seems to me to be rash decision, but it's your decision to make.
Yep.
I get that. And frankly, I could live with it. I'm comfortable living with that myself. So I don't know if do we have any more questions from the board on this?
Is it being withdrawn? I guess, is that what?
We're going to wait for the board to make a decision.
Okay. That's fair enough. Let me just check to see if we have any call-ins. We don't. Any electronic? We don't. So I'll just ask if
We
anybody.
have somebody.
Yeah.
Come on. Sure, come on up and speak. Give us your name, please.
My name's Helena Kessler. I live at 1719 Scribner Road. And with regards to this particular motion, it's a little confusing as to the various aspects of the project. We have been concerned and have gone to the other board with regards to the project. The project itself is very worthwhile, and the need is great. This particular parcel has had a lot of heat and light around it based on traffic and things of that nature, and part of the parcel is an older home that's been in Penfield for years, and like you indicated, a non-conforming structure. So we would hate to have anything torn down just because it's a difficult situation, because very often it can be repurposed. But again, the project needs a little clarification because there is a great deal of concern. That's for another board, we understand. But if we could get a clear picture as to exactly where we are on the project, my understanding, limited as it is because we try to keep up with regards to the project, that they haven't ruled on it yet. It's still dumping out onto Scribner Road, which is another issue of traffic and concern. And so if we could get a global look at the project as to, In 3 years, would that structure still be there? In 3 years, would that historic house still be there? And is there a covenant wrapped around that? So just very, very quickly, that's some of our concerns. We indeed also are confused about kind of where they are. They're frustrated. They're trying to get the project underway. And so that's kind of where we are. So if we table it now, if we could get, a better handle on, where we are with the town board as well, we'd really appreciate that. And I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
And
questions
before you
for
tear it
this
down,
witness?
it's still worthwhile. So
Yeah.
thanks so much.
Thank you.
You had mentioned just one thing in there about it being historical. It's not a historical?
Why, sure it is. My father he used to shoot rocks at my mother when he worked there for Peter Gray. Okay. All good.
Thanks. Anyone else in the audience care to speak about this? No? Okay. Well, if it's okay with you, I am going to make a motion to table. Do we have to do seeker before we do that?
You do not.
Okay. So I am going to make a motion to table this application to seek further counsel and clarification on whether this board has the jurisdiction and whether or not it is appropriate for the matter to appear before this board. I think it's a clear application. I don't really have any questions in that regard, but I do feel the need to make sure that we do have the authority to, and the necessity to have the matter before us. So that is my motion. I understand clearly what the applicant has expressed, and applicant's entitled to do what he wants in this regard.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion on this? Okay, then we'll take a vote on my motion to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's raise hands. All those in favor? Okay.
And who seconded it, please?
Matt. Okay, so there we have it. I, again, would urge you to not make any rash decisions, but also respect your right to do what you will.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And number 10.
DeMarco Baytown Associates LLC, 1950 Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road, Rochester, New York, 14623. Requests approval for a conditional use under Section 250-13.3 and Section 250-5.7-C1K of the Code to allow the operation of a public assembly venue at 1900 Empire Boulevard. The property is currently or formerly owned by DeMarco Baytown Associates LLC and is zoned general business. SBL number 093.02-1-23.111. This is application number 22Z-0035.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Fode's back.
I'm back. So I don't, do you have the site plan? Because I did bring boards.
Yes.
So the first thing that's kind of, a lot of thought has gone into this particular project. I think most everybody is probably aware that this section of Baytown used to be a Tops supermarket, and Walmart, which is a superstore, has groceries. So Tops.
You shouldn't assume that, because there's a lot of young people sitting there.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so it was a Tops, and the Tops actually got split in half, and the DeMarco family decided to do something very creative. They created what they're calling the Street of Shops, and the Street of Shops, if you've been through, and I assume that most of us have, it has a really nice appeal. In the center of the Street of Shops, there's Ferrari's Pizza on one end, and then there's Witchcraft Brewery on the other. We got Hand and Stone and some other tenants in the Street of Shops. In the center of the Street of Shops, and almost in the center of the project itself, where you see this, we're asking for approval tonight, is where we want to put this venue. And we decided to call it the Mid because it's literally in the middle of the street of shops, and it's in the middle of Baytown. We think it's really important. It's going to be an event venue, and it'll be weddings, retirement parties. It could be a holiday event for a local business, showers, maybe award dinners. There would be no cooking on site. We've already established some partners, local businesses that are licensed caterers. We've established some relationships with event planners in advance, trying to plan this project. And the idea is to breathe some life into the street of shops. We think that it's vital to this section of the plaza. The hours, we think there's going to be maybe 3 or 4 days or nights a week. The party planners are telling us that Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays would be most likely when there's events, and Friday events might be from 4 to 11. They said sometimes, depending on what type of party, it could go as late as 1 o'clock. This is a 24-hour area in the general business district.
What time is the brewery open till on the weekends? Does anybody know?
Yeah, I do not know their
I would
hours.
assume
Yeah.
when the bars close, 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can probably check their website.
In the party, the planners are telling us that usually 11 or 11:30 is when these types of things wind down.
Yeah.
So it will be if you look at the plan, we put the plan up on there. There would be a caterer's kitchen. In other words, there's no open combustion. It's really more for plating, warming and plating, and all the food would be brought in the way it's brought into certain types of venues around Rochester. Another thing that we're finding in Greater Rochester is that there's actually, believe it or not, a shortage right now of event venues like this, and especially in the northeast area of Monroe County. So we really think that this will service the people of Penfield, Webster, and the surrounding areas. So
Witchcraft is only open till 10 p.m.
That's the
Really?
latest that they're open.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So I guess my only issue with this is parking.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are you going to have there, and where are, there's plenty of parking, so it's really more of a, how are you going to make sure that people get from their cars to the event place, in a safe manner?
Right. So the plaza's whole, so Baytown, the whole campus is actually 2 separate parcels, but the whole campus is well over 500,000 square feet, and we have a ratio of 5 cars per 1,000. We haven't done an official study, but the section that you see where Burlington Coat Factory is and Planet Fitness, and then there's Once Upon a Child up, where the pin says Baytown Plaza, Once Upon a Child's there. That parking lot, we actually did we've gone there a few times. That parking lot will have upwards of 200 empty spaces, like during peak retail hours. The other thing is that these events won't be during peak retail hours. So the idea is that parking lot there, in front of the Burlington, it would be an area where if we have for events valet parking, or people could simply just park there and walk to the venue.
Are you going to reserve any of the spots in the street of shops for other tenants? Or is it going to be sort of first come, first serve?
That's a great question. So what we've talked about with the event planners is actually restricting. So if you look on the back side of the plaza, like back where the cursor is there's parking there, that any employees working for the caterers would park on that side. And then we would encourage and visitors to park in the area that I was talking about in front of.
Yeah, and again, plenty of spots. That's not, I just want to make sure that people going from that parking lot to the event like they do now for the other shops, but that they're able to cross that right, and, you know, good for you guys how busy Starbucks is.
Yeah.
But that, you know, that we have, I have no reason to believe it's unsafe, but now you're going to have more pedestrians parking and crossing that road. So whatever sort of additional safety features that you guys think are appropriate, you know, I'd ask you to consider that as well. I think the use is a great idea, great use. It would be nice to fill in that space.
I am curious, how many people fit in the event space?
Yeah, so seated, it could fit up to 250 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a big space.
And interesting enough, I mean, while we were planning this, you know, coming here, we've actually received a lot of phone calls. People are literally wanting to book this location.
There aren't a lot of venues that seat that many.
There isn't.
No.
Yep.
And, you know, some people, again, you haven't asked the question, but I'll offer, some people have asked what's going to look like. It's, you know, it's going to have a kind of a modern, it's going to be polished concrete floor. Industrial is going to have, it's going to have about 8 giant chandeliers, like 60-inch wide chandeliers. It's going to be wide open. It's just going to be a really nice looking venue.
Is it one of these things where it's one space, or you can divide it off into smaller spaces or is that not really conducive to the design?
Yeah, so what we're doing is some of the event planners that we're working with are talking about bringing in like curtains and things like that to make areas smaller, but then of course there's sound issues, right? If you have multiple venues or multiple events happening at the same time. So what we have decided to do is try to limit our investment, because this is somewhat speculative, but based on the feedback we're getting, people are calling us already, you know, with this thing not even started, asking to book it. So, but what we're going to plan on doing, the DeMarcos are willing to invest even more into this. So we might bring in, you know, accordion sound, dividers and things like that, if this event dictates.
In the future.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions from the board? No, nobody calling in, nobody emailing. Anybody in the audience care to speak about this? We have a no out there. So let's proceed with the seeker. I would make a motion to declare it a type 2 action under seeker.
Second.
All right, so I've made the motion, Laura seconded it. All those in favor? Aye. And on the merits, I would make a motion to approve the application. I think it's a really creative idea. I know how hard the landlord works to make this a successful plaza over the years. You know, this plaza's been on the agenda probably more than any other applicant we've had in the 20-odd years I've been here. And it's, I think, all with pretty good results. So I'm confident that whatever safety features are needed, they will address those appropriately as well. So there aren't any other issues with lighting or hours or anything. That's all consistent with the plaza. So that's my motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, I've made a motion to approve, and Andres is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
When are you opening?
We'd like to be we'd like to be open August. We'd like to be open August, maybe September. But we are literally getting phone calls. People are, it's
good.
It's interesting. So
good.
And Lou would love to tour, have the board come and tour it when we're finished.
I'd love to tour it.
Thank you.
All right, take care. I think that was the last application.
One more, number 11.
Oh, gosh, that's right, 11, so to speak. Thank you, Andres.
Yep. Lisa Whirl.
Yep.
153 Highledge Drive, Penfield, New York, 14526. Request
I
approval.
didn't forget you, but I kind of did, but not really.
You weren't going to forget me.
You won't after this.
Yeah.
Request approval for an area variance under section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a front porch roof portico with less front setback than required under section 250-5.1-F1 of the code at 153 Highledge Drive. The property is currently or formerly owned by Lisa A. Worrell and is zoned R-1-15, SBL number 139.10-3-23. This is application number 22Z-0018.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I think what we should do on this one is have a motion to reopen the public hearing and then proceed with the public hearing.
Right, that's why. So I will move, because of what happened last month, we tabled it. The applicant was not able to be here, so just to make the record clear, I will make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for that reminder.
Was that Matt, second?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you want me to say who I am? I'm Lisa Worley, 153 Highledge, Penfield.
Okay.
Good evening. So it seems as though you're doing this for your cat and your dog. So are they
am.
paying for it?
No, they're not. That's very typical.
So you're seeking a 6-foot variance from the front setback from 50 feet to 44 feet. You're looking to take a metal awning down and put up a portico. I'm assuming that the construction of it is going to blend in with your current home.
Right, we had it recited, the house was recited in November, and the same contractor is going to be doing this for us.
And driving down your road, you can look to the left and the right and see many houses with porticos, correct?
Yes, I can.
This isn't going to stand out as an eyesore.
No.
It's going to look better than the metal awning, correct?
It'll look better than any of the other houses.
And the the metal, the asphalt roof rather than the metal won't disrupt your animals when it rains as much, correct?
No, they've signed off on this.
And that's really it. I have nothing further.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
No.
No call-ins, shocker, no electronic submissions, okay, let's
I'd make a
proceed then.
motion to declare this a type 2 action under seeker.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to declare it a type 2 in 2 seconds. George, you're going to go with Andres? Okay, who's counting, but all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the merits?
I'm going to make a motion to approve. It's a fairly minimal variance request. It definitely fits in with the character of the neighborhood. There's no environmental concerns. It's gonna blend in with the current house. It's gonna look great, and it's self-created, but I don't have an issue with it. So
Right.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, a motion to approve by Matt, second by Andres. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, good luck.
Thank you, everybody.
We did miss you last month.
I know, I'm so sorry. It was a mix-up on my part.
Yeah, no,
I was okay with it. Dan was very offended.
Thank you. All right, well, that concludes the hearings, so well done, and we will stand adjourned until our meeting next month, June 16th. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.